What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this 11-fight MMA slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys want to be entered into our $25 giveaway that we do every single Friday, please like, subscribe, and also comment your favorite overall fight on this slate. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/DGFantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA 11-fight slate. Guys, it's been a while, but we still have a recap from last time. Kevin, how you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man. I am so excited to get back into MMA. I mean, I've been loving NBA. I've been loving the NFL, the playoffs, but I mean, everyone knows that MMA is my baby.
Yeah, we have every single sport going on now, guys. So if you haven't seen our NBA videos, please go give that a watch. Also, our NFL breakdown video will be out later today or tomorrow morning. So feel free to give all of our videos a watch, guys. We're covering literally everything. One-stop shop here at Daily Grind Fantasy Sports. Kevin, let's go ahead and recap, I guess, 4 weekends ago? I don't even know. The last fight slate that we had, and then we'll go ahead and jump into the slate.
Yeah, I want to say it was this December 19th or something, which is just depressing.
Like pretty much over a year ago. Get it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. I'm out. So yeah, last fight card was UFC Fight Night, Thompson versus Neal. You know, I feel like I haven't done a recap in so long, Matt. It's depressing, but you know, we did really good on this card. One of those ones I expected to make more money with how much success we actually had. But sometimes that just isn't the case, or there's one little thing that shifts your success just a little bit. But we did really well. Going through the fights, first fight, I said to fade the super heavy favorite in Giagos at 9.3K. And that went super smoothly. He looked pretty bad. Didn't get the finish, didn't score super high. I said you need 100% exposure to Flick and Durden. Flick got the first round sub, so that was huge. 2 back-to-back fights off the rip that went well for us. Tafon made the love list and he won, but was pretty underwhelming and was pretty expensive. So I think that helped us in cash, but slowed us down in the takedown for sure. That might be one place I had a decent amount of him. He won, but just didn't get the finish and didn't look super hot doing it. Santos and Robertson went as expected. It was a solid fight that ended in a decision. I tried to tell you guys about Deron Wynn, Matt. That was the one the field slept on, low owned, and we got huge leverage there. He was one. I think him and Font were my top 2 punts, and Wynn there scored over 100 points at $7,300, which is ridiculous. He just put a takedown clinic on him. I didn't touch Panny and Sihara Eubanks, and glad I didn't. That was a snooze fest. Didn't touch Pettis at his price, and very happy I didn't. I mean, it was just too much money for him. He hasn't been scoring well, and he hasn't been consistently winning either. Heading into the main card, so I think we were lights out, Matt. I mean, we were basically, you know, undefeated on these picks so far. Main card started awesome as well. I said Tybur and Hardy make the love list at heavyweight, and Tybur got the finish, put Hardy away, so that was great. My other top punt option, Rob Font at 7,200. Guess what? First round KO from another top punt, Matt. So both my punts scored probably over 100 points. I know what you want from me, Matt. I just predict these things. You know what I mean? That's why in Mexico they call me El Tortuga Pequeño. You know what I'm saying? That's Little Turtle. I don't know what I'm saying.
I'm shaking my head right now. You just can't see it.
I don't know what that means, but we'll go with it. I like that, Little Turtle. Put that on my nameplate now. Anyway, moving on to Michelle Pereira versus Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams, good fighter. I think he looked okay. Michelle Pereira looked okay. This is another one, Matt. I had probably near 100% exposure to this one, and Pereira probably, I'm guessing you're looking at the optimal, did not make it.
I'm sorry, who was it?
I'm sorry, Michelle Pereira.
No, did not.
Yeah, so that's one of the ones that killed me. I had a lot of Pereira, didn't make the optimal. Like some of these picks, just, I mean, they won, they did great, and that's why we were profitable. But like, he just didn't get the finish. That was should have been a little more high octane of a fight, I guess, and just didn't hit that. Didn't really live up to that expectation. But a lot of the ones that were snooze fest, we we hit the nail on too, like Aldo and Vera, and went to a decision. I didn't touch either of them, and I'm glad I didn't. Stephen Thompson scored very well at his price tag. I'm assuming he made the optimal bet.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did really well. Looked great. Probably won all 5 rounds, and he was one of my core plays, so that was great. Really like to see that. I think we did well. What was the optimal? I'm guessing. I mean, did both my punts make it? Win and Font.
Yes, they both did, but it was like by far too. They're the top 4 scorers. So, Tayfon made it. $9,400. Flick made it.
Tayfon made it.
Yes.
So I guess we friggin' nailed it. I don't know how we didn't win more.
I think it looks overall like a lower scoring slate in general. There was a lot of low scores. $48,100 were used. Tayfon, 100 he scored. Flick scored 93. Thompson scored 115.5. Tybura 103.5. Win 106, and then Font 120. And that was at $48,100 were used in salary. So insane.
Yeah, we crushed it. I don't know what to say. I don't know. I'm surprised we didn't have more takedowns then, because that is, yeah, I can't believe. I thought Tayfon and, you know, I
scored
get
100.
the Pereira one. Yeah,
so.
I didn't realize he scored that well. I mean, I guess we just all expected him to get the knockout because of how physical he was, and it looked at a point like he was gassing and might not, you know, do well in the third, but then he kept pouring that pace on, and I'm surprised he scored that well. So that's crazy. And I guess, like you said, it is a low scoring. Like usually at his price point, that actually isn't a great score.
No, it's not. It's actually a terrible score.
Yeah, so that's
it's just because there are so many upsets and so many lower priced guys.
Yeah. And like I said, like this is like when the ones we faded, all were pretty crappy fights. Like
right.
Panny, Sahara, Aldo, and you know, Pettis and all those. But yeah, let's move into this next one. Really excited for this one, Matt. Really interesting slate. Most of the heavy favorites on this card are simply overpriced. That doesn't mean I don't think they'll win or they're overrated. It's just like odd, like where you'd usually see a dude at like 8,500 for a line, he's like 8,800. Where you'd usually see a guy at like $9,000 for that line, he's like 9,400. So it's kind of weird. But you know, ton of live fights, solid core options, and a stackable main, I believe. So I think this is a good card for GPP or cash, Matt.
Got it. I love those kind of slates. And for the first time, we actually have 2 different slates. There's a late slate and a 12 p.m. So this one does start at 12. Is that correct, Kevin?
Yes, I believe so. I got to check that. I actually don't know. I got to check, but
yeah. 12 is showing for me. I don't think they would input the wrong data. So yeah, this is starting a little bit earlier. So that's good to know.
Yeah, that's weird. A lot of weird things. I mean, this is also one. The card is on ABC, and I don't think I've ever seen a UFC fight card on ABC. So
all right,
pretty odd. I mean, we're watching NFL games on Nickelodeon, fight cards on ABC. So
that's true.
I don't know what 2021 is already weird.
NBA is just canceled at this point because of COVID. So whatever, yeah, we're just not watching that.
Just a quick vent moment. I had Tobias Harris in my season long.
Yeah.
And
the whole COVID thing.
Ruled out by Doc, was ruled out until Saturday. Like guaranteed, can't return early on Saturday because of COVID. Put him on my IR, played last night, Thursday. Makes sense. Anyway, so moving on to this fight slate. Yeah, 32 points on my bench. Thank you.
It just goes away. Right. COVID's a myth. I'm kidding, guys. Don't flame me in the comments. Come on.
Right, I couldn't believe it. I was like, what the? Okay. Like, no, can't come before Saturday. No chance. And it was like Thursday. Makes sense. But anyway, moving to the fight slate, we got Jacob Kilburn versus Austin Lingo. It's interesting fights start the card, to say the least, Matt. Both fighters are 0-1 in the UFC. Not exactly what I want to see when looking to spend $9K for someone like Lingo. I certainly think it's a live fight. Both guys have over a 70% finish rate, but I do have my hesitations for obvious reasons. It won't make my love list for that reason. I will keep it as a very yellow fight, Matt. There are certainly better fights on this card, better fighters for sure. But if you take a swing at it, I don't hate you for it. It still has a better chance to end in a finish than not. And there's a little volatility here. I mean, you could take Lingo, who's lesser known. Maybe there's some lower ownership that comes in on him. You could take Kilburn, who's, you know, again, Lingo isn't this world beater, doesn't seem like. So, I mean, who knows? Lingo could get the win at 7,200. So I see leverage there. What's ownership like?
Very weird ownership. Kilburn's the lowest I've ever seen. I'm not kidding. 3.2% ownership, Kevin. 3.2. Okay. And then Lingo is 17.4. So combined, they're just over 20%. What is that?
What was Lingo?
17.4. So that's still low. What is going on there? Do you like that? Do you like to hear that?
It makes sense to me. it makes sense to me for Lingos just because being 9K and that unknown coming off the UFC like crappy debut. Kilburn doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, I don't think he's a good fighter. He lost to Billy Quarantillo, who's pretty damn good fighter. So it's like it's not like end all like, oh, he lost to Billy Quarantillo, like, you know, that's it's a wrap. He sucks. Like Quarantillo was, you know, 3-0 in the UFC before he just lost to Gavin Tucker. So I don't think that really means much to me. I don't know. Maybe you look at you go to SureDog. If you're familiar with SureDog, man, it's one of the biggest MMA information websites in the world. You go to SureDog, you look at Jacob Kilburn's picture. He looks like a stay-at-home dad. So I don't know. Maybe that's what's selling people. I really don't know. That's bizarre to me, though. I mean, in this much volatility, I'm surprised 3%.
Yeah.
Is what we're looking at here.
It's just interesting. $7,200. If this guy scores over, I don't know, if he makes the optimal, you're now competing with 3.2% of all the lineups. So take that as you will. If you're running 150 lineups, I think you have to include him in there just for that sole reason. That is humongous leverage. I've never seen that ownership before in my life. Hopefully that updates because that's just terrifying. If that's really the case, there's still a huge edge here in MMA. Even if you don't believe in Kilburn winning, you should never see that low of ownership on anybody.
No, and I know Lingo only lost to Zalal and tough fight. I mean, Yusuf Zalal is a really good fighter, but I mean, he also, you know, lost. I remember he didn't even have like an undefeated amateur career. He hasn't fought anybody big named. I mean, I don't know. I'm just not like, oh, Lingo's too tough. You got to avoid him. Right. You got to avoid his competition. Like, I don't know. This is a good spot. Like you're saying, like almost throw the information out the window and just looking at 3%, take a couple swings.
Sure. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. Before we move on any further, Kevin, I usually draw that benchmark ownership percentage. Anything below 38.4%, so we'll call it 38%, is going to be a GPP option. Very skewed here. A lot of chalk here on the slate for sure. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on to the next one.
Moving on to Sarah Moras versus Vanessa Mello. Speaking of better fights to target on the slate, yeah, this isn't one of them. Most hated fight on the card for sure. I mean, we have super heavy favorite, but as a super heavy favorite at 9,100, she is 1-4 in her last 5 fights.
Okay,
again,
makes sense.
Like, why do I want to put my stud money here? Against nobody's too. And then the underdog is 0-3 in the UFC. So two absolute just savages of fighters. Clearly, such a volatile fight. It has a plus 250 finish chance too, and for good reason. Mello as the underdog, who's again assuming she should lose, has 8 losses and 7 have gone to a decision. So
why is she still able to fight?
No,
like I'm like being serious. Like, do you have to, like, would you have to pay like a certain amount to fight again? Like, what's going on here?
It's this little thing called COVID, man. I've never seen anything like it. I've seen before COVID, you see, you know, two losses in the UFC, you got your shot, see you, bud. I've seen people one shot, didn't look good enough, see you, bud. And now it's like people are coming in at like 0-17 in the UFC, and they're like, one more shot, you got it. It's like, it's crazy. I'm telling you, they're trying to pump so much content out, and they're also trying to like, they also have to, because people are pulling out of fights. Some people are unavailable. Like, there's so many restrictions. Like, I've seen so many people have a payday that just have no business being in there.
So you're saying,
and we've capitalized.
You're saying now's my chance?
Now's your chance, Matt. Start getting the bag.
I was waiting for my chance. All right. Well, with all that being said, Kevin, let's go ahead and recap this. Morris is at 20.4%, and Mello's actually at 10.2%. So again, to compare that to the last fight where we were kind of stunned by the ownership, straight up leverage. Just if you favor those two guys over these two girls, you're looking at a huge leverage potential here, because the combined ownership on this fight, just over 30%, and on the first one, it's just over 20%. So yeah, it's crazy.
And if you wanted to take like, because like an underdog like Mello or something, we know women's fights are the most volatile when it comes to like, you know, when we're looking at a line, like heavy favorites get knocked off all the time. And like I said, the heavy favorite in this one literally has lost 4 of her last 5 fights. Granted, Mello sucks, but if there was any piece of this to take, that would be it. I would just avoid Sarah completely.
Yeah. Got it. All right. That's just very interesting. Look at the ownership to start off. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one here.
Moving on. So now after those two, I know you guys are ready for the good fights. Keep waiting. This isn't it. I promise.
Kevin's got some jokes here. He comes back from a 3-week mini vacation here, and it's just cracking jokes. All right, let's do it.
I just can't. Well, I can't believe that like these are the first 3. But I mean, I think Ramazan Ameev is he's good. But it's just it's not going to be, high scoring. I couldn't believe like these three, like back to back to back. I mean, I hope maybe the first one ends in a finish. The last fight we just talked about shouldn't. This one probably won't end in a finish. I mean, this is crazy, Matt. So Ramazan is he's either 4-0 or 4-1 in the UFC. He has 4 wins in the UFC. And he has so again, 4 wins. He's won 4 fights. He's had under 40 significant strikes in all of his wins. Under 40 significant strikes in all of his wins.
I know
that sounds like, well, that's weird as hell. Maybe he's putting down like a wrestling clinic. Nope. During that span, he's had 7 takedowns.
So he's just staring at the opposing fighter. Is what you're saying?
I don't know how he's winning these fights. I mean, I've watched him. It's just I do know how he just cage control, picks his shots, but he is such a low.
Is he hypnotizing them?
Like he's hypnotizing. He's putting him to sleep. He's giving him laxatives before the fight. I don't know what he's doing, but he's winning somehow. And but I'm gonna fade him at that price. He's just such a low octane fighter, super low pace fighter. He's and also don't forget to mention that in his 5 UFC fights. So yeah, he's 4-1 in the UFC. In his 5 UFC fights, all 5 have gone to decision. So we really don't, that would be one thing. Like, oh, maybe he's only getting 40 significant strikes because he's knocking people out in the second. Nope, just slow as hell. So I'm going to avoid him at 9,200. I just am really confident that he won't hit that price point. And I don't think David Zawada is going to be a super, threat to him necessarily. I'm not going to be like, hey, take David as under. I mean, I think Ramazan's clearly good at winning if he can do that little and do it, that many times, but I don't want him for how low octane he is, especially at 9,200. That's ridiculous.
Right. Yeah. So just overall ownership wise, 24.2%, and the WADA at 15.2. So both of these are very, very low. Still through the first 3 fights, all GPP, Kevin. And even that's a long shot here, just because of the way you're talking up these fights. Would you say out of the 3, the first one's your favorite to target so far?
Yeah, just because of the finish chance, the writing's on the wall, and there's so much volatility, and what you just mentioned with the ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
higher,
definitely yellow. Definitely yellow, where these 2 I just talked about are far closer to red.
Okay. Do you want me to label them as red?
Sure.
Okay.
I feel good. I usually am never that confident about a men's fight just because so much can happen.
The price tags are so high too on these last 2 people, and then the first one, $9,000 for Lingo, seems like, I wouldn't say a steal, but a lot better.
Yeah, no, it's definitely it is. It's almost like it's a for when you're looking at like what could actually happen in the fight.
Right.
I mean, and both these guys, Kilburn and Lingo, have a good amount of finishes in their career, so it can happen.
Got it.
Moving on, we got Carlos Felipe versus Justin Tafa. This one will be the first one to make my love list, Matt. Tafa's 4-1 in his professional career, with all of his wins and his sole loss coming by way of knockout. So that's good to see. Felipe has a 66% knockout rate as well. As we saw from his last fight, I think it was against Jorgen. That he can last 3 rounds. He looked pretty tough. I think this is 2 hard-hitting heavyweights who both haven't faced a ton of high-level competition, but it is a live fight. I like Tafa. He's fun. He reminds me of Mark Hunt. He's got the New Zealand heavyweight factor where it's just like he cracks people and he's fun to watch. He's got that aura, and I like that. Felipe's tough too, as we just talked about. I like him as the favorite. So I definitely like this fight, man. I think it's live and does have a -155 finish chance. So do like that. And the pricing is great. I love this, like 7,600 to 8,600 range. Great place to be.
Okay. Ownership makes sense then. 30.4%. Again, still low. Still GPP worthy, Kevin. And Tafa at 14.8%. Do you like the leverage on both sides here?
What is it again?
30.4 and 14.8. So both very low still.
That's enough. Yeah, for sure.
Got it. All right.
That's enough leverage. Yeah. So moving on to, what do we got next, Matt?
We have Edwards and Yanan Wu.
Yeah, Wu. It's one of those ones. It's like first name's not actually the last name. Last name's first.
Sorry if I offended anybody.
No, it's just I run into this problem all the time because on DraftKings, UFC,
it's probably like a completely different name.
Yep, they're not in sync ever. It's like Wu Yanan Wu. It's just
no, it's like an American name. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. But this is actually a super live fight. This women's fight is super live. I don't think it will make my love list, but it should definitely be like high yellow or to greenish, and you can put it a green, man. I don't care. It's a green fight. You can include this in your player pool for sure. These girls are crazy good at finishing. I don't know why this has a +180 finish chance. I mean, I get that they're girls, but I think it should be actually, a little closer to a finish chance because both girls have over an 80% finish rate, which is crazy. And they've had a good amount of fights. They have solid records too. I mean, most guys don't have an 80% finish rate that aren't light heavies and heavies. You know what I mean? That's crazy. That is pretty impressive for both of them to have that. So I think the UFC is UFC experience is the only thing giving Wu the edge here. But if you look on paper, Matt, it's a pretty near even fight. Like it's a pretty near even line too. You're looking at a -110 for Jocelyn and a -120 for Wu. And I think, like I said, it's just the fact she's been here before. But yeah, I think it's a solid fight. I for sure wouldn't completely fade this. At these prices, there is a, I don't want to say better chance than not, but there is a solid chance this makes it optimal.
So, Kevin, when there's a really close line, what do we always say? The cheaper person is going to be more chalky, right?
70% owned.
Yep. So, yeah. Edwards, though, is 32.4% owned, which is still GPP worthy. And Wu is at 15.4, literally half the ownership, just because she is $8,400, which is $600 more if you guys can't do math. Yeah, huge leverage potential here on Wu. Your thoughts on that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that as much. I was like playing around with some cash lineups, and I was like kept throwing in Edwards.
Yep. That's what a lot of the casuals are gonna do. Stop being a casual, Kevin. Come on.
Sorry, casual. I know.
At least in cash lineups, you guys should be playing Edwards. So it seems like you should follow on her a lot.
Yeah, throw her in, and but I mean, Wu's definitely some leverage. Edwards still could make the optimal at 7,800. So, yeah, I like the fight. Good fight.
Awesome. Let's move on.
Moving on, we got Phil Hawes versus Imavov. This is an awesome fight to target. I wouldn't sleep on Imavov, and he will make my punt list, especially with his ability and the fact that both of Phil's losses are by way of finish 2, Matt. But that being said, Phil Hawes might be probably the most dangerous fighter on this card, and I will have a ton of him because of that. He is a Mack truck, always hunting the finish. I think this fight is going to be probably near 100% exposure for me, honestly, Matt. I love the prices of these guys, and I love the finish ability.
Awesome. All right, that's very quick, very quick run through. Yeah, no, we have 29.8% on. I'm sorry, Imavov.
Yep,
Imavov. Got it. Hawes, 41.8%. So that's your first cash option here. $8,800. Do you believe in that?
Yep, I do, and I think he makes a good GPP option too. I mean, I would actually probably believe more in GPP just because the nature of him and his fighting style.
Okay.
I could see him, getting caught, losing. I could see him. If he wins, he's probably going to put the lights out. So
it's just such a close line. I'm actually surprised that people are so confident.
Yeah, well, it's what it is. The DraftKings pricing is this is one of those ones that's really out of skew. 8,800 doesn't really look, like a -135.
Right.
You know what I mean? Perfect example. Carlos Condit going up a little bit ahead, $8,700, so $100 cheaper. He's a -170.
Right. Yeah.
So this line doesn't really make much sense.
Huh. Okay. It looks like a lot of these builds are going to be middle of the road then, at least just looking at the ownership, Kevin. So very interesting.
It is. There's a lot of weird pricing in the middle there, which is good because that's where usually we're finding ourselves, kind of barren and looking for fighters in that price range.
Right. You won't have any trouble this slate.
Oh my God, dude. The last 2 slates we had, both like fights, all the fights that got pulled were all in that range. So it was like, all right, which studs and duds do we want to pick?
just close your eyes. Take one of the bottom, one of the bottom, guys. All right, let's move on here to the 5th fight.
Yep, we got the main card starting off. We got Soriano versus Dusko. Really good fight. Todorovic is, someone really fun to watch, up and comer, undefeated, but Soriano's undefeated too, man. Someone's has to go. These guys are completely undefeated, even in their amateur careers. So this one I'm super excited for. I haven't seen really a good undefeated fight in a long time. It just doesn't happen anymore. I feel like everyone's too good. You know what I mean? Like the only people who come to the UFC undefeated now are like 4-0. You know what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't happen as much anymore. I think there's just too many good people on local circuits now. I will say, in my opinion, Dusko has a more impressive resume and a better hit list. He beat Michel Pereira, who we mentioned previously, who I have a pretty decently high opinion of. Michel Pereira, I think he's a good fighter, and he beat him. Soriano has good wrestling, and that might pose a problem. And we haven't really seen Dusko push that. We still haven't seen a ton of Dusko in general. So this is an interesting one, Matt. I don't quite know where it's going to go. Still 2 lesser known guys who seem to have a lot of talent, though. Soriano wrestled at Wartburg College, Matt, which I know 99% of the people I'm talking to have never heard of it. And it's like, what's a Wartburg? But in the wrestling community, that's probably the best D3 college in history. So that's pretty good wrestling clout. You know what I mean? I think he was a starter there. So that's good wrestling background. It's about as good as D3 gets if you're not a D1 wrestler. That is an X factor, and I want to see if he can, put that on Dusko. We haven't seen Dusko pushed in that regard yet. We haven't really seen him pushed at all. But I've been very impressed with what I've seen from Dusko, so it's tough. I really like this fight. I think it's gonna be a fun one to watch. Super good finishers too. I love both sides. They have a combined 15 finishes of their 17 fights too, Matt. So this is a good one. This is definitely a love list, and picking a side is going to be tough for me on this one. I mean, I had a slight edge to Dusko just because I've seen him and I love what I've seen from him. But Soriano's a savage, man, and I think that wrestling factor. This is the wrestling factor that I bring, like the Deron Win that I try to tell people about that they don't understand. And Deron Win gets 15 takedowns at 7,300 and breaks the slate. You know what I mean? Like, we want to make sure that we're not on the opposing side of that. So I definitely want to get some Dusko and some Soriano. I'm still contemplating my my percentages there, how I want to shift that.
So here's the thing. Combined ownership wise, Kevin, this is the second highest on the slate. Combined ownership wise. So a lot of fans here on Dusko and Soriano. Dusko is sitting at 47.8%, which is the second highest on the slate. But Soriano is at 39.2% owned, which is very, very high. Also makes it cash worthy for that reason, because the ownership's so high. Assuming this doesn't change, which it probably will. Sign up for patreon.com/DGFantasy. $20 a month gets you all that and so much more. Should you be stacking this fight?
No, definitely not stacking. He's even in cash.
Even in cash.
Because it could end in a finish early. You're going to get burned if you stack this in cash, 100%. If both these guys make the optimal in cash, Matt, you will find me. I'll move to Canada and I'll start covering hockey or something. There's no way. There's just no way. I mean, even at that price tag, like, there's just I don't see it happening.
Okay.
But that being said,
this sounds like a make or break then, at least for cash, which is weird.
I was going to say I know. I was just going to say. I still don't like it for cash because it is such a make or break. That's a great point, Matt, because even at that ownership, we're looking at something that, it sounds like both are cash viable, but you can't have both cash viable. It's a paradox. It's it's counterintuitive. You can't have two people who are cash viable because to be cash viable,
you have to be able to stack.
Or either able to stack, or you want someone who you're confident in the win.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And you can't have two guys like this who are split in confidence. That's why even at those ownerships, I think it is a great make or break, because obviously with those high ownerships, even if Dusko's 40%, if people have them at 40%, that means that most people, again, they're not going to stack this. So if you have Soriano winning, then you just beat 40% of the field. If you have Dusko, then you just beat 40% of the field. You know what I mean? Like, so I do think in GPP, I know. I think in GPP, this is one that you absolutely still target.
Yeah, it looks like it. Can you imagine if these guys just don't make the optimal? It's going to break literally 90% of the lineups. So
that, Matt, that was going to be my last thing I was going to cap off. I was going to say, or don't pick either. Hope and pray, and you are going to have some fat leverage.
If you fade this fight completely from 150 lineups, okay, again, I'm getting crazy here, but if this fight does not make the optimal, you're now competing with, let me do some quick math here, about 10% of the field.
10% of the field.
If this does not make the optimal, that is insane. That means all your GPPs are going to cash, because cash rate for GPPs is 20%. Do the math, guys. About 23%.
And here's the thing, Matt. What's harder? We talked about it earlier, to give yourself good leverage. So we talked about like 3% leverage, and that's if Kilburn wins at a heavy underdog. That's crazy. What's a better chance? Kilburn winning this fight? Not that it can't happen, but Kilburn winning this fight, or this fight not making the optimal?
Yeah,
absolutely. This fight not making the optimal. That's a much better chance. You know what I mean? So
we're getting crazy here, Kevin. We're gonna have to come up with a phone call after this, and we're gonna have to talk some strategy, because this is very interesting.
I was just gonna say, this is the deep thoughts, man. Deep thoughts.
I like it though. I really do.
Yeah. So I think we've done enough on that fight, but definitely some good information there. Let's move on to huge fan favorite. We're talking about Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chiriso.
I'm not saying that. Good.
This is one of those weird ones where this is the perfect example of what I was talking about. The line doesn't reflect. At 9.4K, Buckley is actually like, that's not right. That's not right, Matt. 9.4K is ridiculous. He should be a minus 350 plus easy. So like minus 350, minus 400, like 9,400 is so ridiculous for a minus 280. That's just not right.
Yeah.
That being said, it doesn't really matter, because around that, he's such a heavy favorite. They expect him to get the finish. I mean, it almost doesn't matter, but at 9,400, Matt, it is really hard to hit your price point there, especially where there's a lot of guys on the slate, like, that could break that, price point at the mid-range pricing. The one thing I will say, when you're looking around people at his price range, when you're looking at, like, we just talked about Ramazan at 9,200, I mean, he's going to outscore Ramazan. We just talked about Sarah Marasa at 9,100. He's going to outscore Sarah. And then Lingo, he should still outscore. So I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. That's all. I hate when they make people 9,400. 9,400 is the number for me. It's just like the no number. Like when they make fighters that price, it's like, screw you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I don't know what to do with that. Like, you really have to do well to clear it at that. And I think he can. I'm not going to take Alessio. He's on a 3-fight losing streak against an absolute Mack truck like Buckley. But I will split. I need some ownership, Matt. What's the ownership looking like?
Ownership on Buckley is at borderline 38%. Going to be cash / GPP option. It looks like a lot of people feel that same way, Kevin, just because it's so awkward to get him in there. Very awkward to make a cash build with him. Aliso is at 11.4%. Do you see any leverage potential there, even with that low ownership of 11.4? I believe that is the third lowest on the slate.
I'm going to say no. We've seen Buckley gas out. We've seen him knocked out, but that was by Kevin Holland, who I mean, fighter of the year, in my opinion. Kevin Holland made a career in 2020, so doesn't really mean much to me. I just put Buckley in core. That was all I needed to hear. It's just like, it's close enough to that line where it's like you put him in core. Just for that price, I think he should win. He's still a very heavy favorite. Crazy. He's actually not the heaviest favorite on slate because of that weird line, but he should win. He absolutely should win.
Now, it sounds like for GPP, you want to make this a yellow, or do you?
Yeah, I'd still take it I'd still take a good amount of Buckley. It's just like, I'm not going to lock him in because say he doesn't get the finish, you're screwed. 9,400 straight up.
All those lineups anyway, yeah.
Yeah, all those lineups are screwed. And even if he does, it's like, I hate when I have a fighter that expensive where he gets a knockout, like say he gets a 3rd round knockout, say it's a low pace fight and he gets like a 2nd round knockout or a 3rd round knockout. Usually if you're a guy who's $8,200, you're like, let's go optimal, lock it in. You know what I mean? We're good. And at Buckley, you're like, you have to sit there and wait and be like, is that it? Like he scored 97 points, but you still have to worry, like, because that might not be good enough. It won't be good enough, probably.
It doesn't look like it. Yeah, if you're not scoring 100 plus, you might as well just.
You need to like kind of get like busy in the first, get a good amount, like load up 26 strikes, get a knockdown, then finish in the first. And it's like, all right, like that's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
Not that he can't do it, but so yeah, that's my stance on that one. Moving on, we have Santiago versus Li Jingliang. Another price that makes me want to throw up. Like just straight up, Santiago's 9,300. Hate it, but I will probably avoid Santiago for the most part and hope he doesn't make the optimal. Straight up, like that's my like. Some of those you just got to take and pray. He's absolutely live. Don't say avoid him completely. That's just my stance. That's probably what I'm going to be doing. It could burn me. If there was something that's going to burn me on the slate, it's this one. I'll bite that. But at 9,300 and coming off a two-year hiatus and facing a solid fighter who is 9-4 in the UFC, I mean, that's my reasoning, Matt. You know what I mean? That's a good amount of reasons to avoid someone at 9, like at that price. It's just that will also catapult Lee for me. He's going to be in my punt list, and he's very talented. And that price would easily make optimal if he just does anything. 6,900 is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's very low.
And Santiago's good. He was good, but I mean, again, he hasn't fought in over 2 years. And Lee's a good fighter, so I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching for this one. Maybe I just hope Santiago has some ring rust and just doesn't get it going. I mean, best case realistic scenario for me, Santiago wins a decision and doesn't hit his price point at 9,300. And doesn't put on a clinic. Shake some of the ring rust off round 1. This is me playing in my head. Shake some of the ring rust off round 1. Starts to get it comfortable a little bit round 2, and maybe looks pretty good by round 3, and then wins a boring decision.
Yeah,
that's my goal.
I'll make this decision for you a little bit harder. Santiago is 33.2%, which is GPP all over.
Perfect.
So yeah, I'm not saying for cash. Yeah,
this is ridiculous.
So Buckley at 38.4% just straight up looks like a great leverage spot. Looks like everybody's going to be going up to Buckley and therefore fading Santiago in a lot of their lineups. So because of that, do you like him for leverage?
I do like him for leverage, and that sucks, but I do. I mean, it's not a bad pick, Matt. It's just you have to make your stance somewhere. It's not a bad pick. I'm not saying fade this, like yellow this. And that's why I said I'll avoid him for the most part, and I think that's contrarian. That doesn't mean I'm going to 100% fade Santiago. Sure. I think he's a good finisher. I think he's a good fighter. It's just that hiatus, the price, and the opponent is just enough to make me not as keen on someone like, if we're looking at 9,300, just take the $100 hit and go to Buckley.
Right.
But that's me.
Well, here's the thing. Lee is sitting at 18.8%, which is very, very low. You love to hear that as a punt option, so I'm assuming you're all aboard the Lee train.
Yeah, I've been about that. And to be honest, that's actually really high, Matt, which gives me a little more confidence that, like, in people's opinion of Lee, that's really high for 6,900. 6,900 is like, you can't win this fight. You know
Right.
what I mean? 7,200 is like, a decent punt. 7,400 is like, all right, I'm a punt with a good shot. Like
Right.
6,900 is like, they don't expect you to even like throw a punch.
Right.
And that's just, again, this person's 9-4 in the UFC.
Right. Yeah.
Crazy.
That
Crazy.
is pretty
So
crazy to sit here and actually look at and think about. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I definitely
So
like that
I
as a
like
punt
that.
option for sure.
Cool. You ready to move on to the
Yep.
co-main?
Yep.
All right, co-main. Carlos Condit versus Matt Brown. My goodness. The fight this is volatility personified, Matt. I don't even know what to say. I can't even pick a favorite in this one. Or like who I think is going to win. Because Carlos Condit, as the actual favorite, has lost 5 of his last 6. It's like, okay. Matt Brown has been even debatably worse. Matt, I know you're not, the most MMA UFC follower in the world, but I will say this is 2 vets, 2 very, very, very big names in the sport. I don't want to say they're Hall of Famers, but they're like, they're going to be there, in conversations. These guys have so many friggin' UFC fights between them. I didn't even look it up. I wish I did. I wish I calculated how many UFC fights they have between them. But they fought guys like Robbie Lawler, Stephen Thompson, Johnny Hendricks, Tyron Woodley, GSP, Damian Maia. Like, these guys fought best of the best, really long careers. I think this is a fun fight to watch. This is going to be a pick 'em. Both are good finishers, Matt, really good finishers throughout their entire career. I remember there was a point when Carlos Condit hopped on the scene. I think he came over from Strikeforce, WC, something like that, to the UFC. And he had I think he's 28-2, and I think like all 28 were finishes or something like that.
That's
And I was
crazy.
like, okay, this guy's a killer. Yeah, something like that. And he's an absolute monster truck. So yeah, he's good. Matt Brown's good. They're obviously in the twilights of career. I mean, I think one is 40 years old and one's 36. They're definitely out the door, but they both have, this is as veteran as it gets. I mean, this is like, I don't even know how to like describe this. I was going to say Tom Brady versus Breeze, but I think they still have some talent. not, not to slight Condit and Brown. Not that they don't have talent, but these guys are definitely out the door. Like I said, they've had some pretty rough ends of their career here, but it's good that they're fighting each other. I think that's appropriate. So it's going to be a fun one, and I think there's a good finish chance. So I would probably consider this to pick them and try to take one side of this either way in most of your lineups. Probably maybe 80% exposure to this fight, Matt, and then just probably split it down the middle, especially at their pricing.
Well, both of these guys are relatively low owned, 34.8% and 24.6%. So combined ownership wise, they are relatively low, especially based on the last fights that we were just comparing them to. Looks like huge leverage potential here, Kevin. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there's huge leverage there. I mean, I get people's hesitation. It's probably the validity.
Volatility. There you go.
And words are hard. It's probably the volatility, and it's also the fact that these guys have looked like crap. They both have not looked good, but they still finish. They still crack. So
Yeah.
I definitely think Matt Brown has like 10 losses by way of submission or something too. Like Carlos Condit gets finished all the time. I think he just got subbed like 3 times of his last whatever. Like, there's so much potential for a finish here. They're both terrible at getting finished. Like, they get finished all the time, and they both are awesome at finishing people. So I don't really get. I think 135 is actually like generous. I think it should be like 175.
Well, there you go. If you're a betting man, you heard that from Kevin himself. So
yep, I do.
All right, one more. Here we go.
Moving on to the main event, we got my boy Calvin Kattar, Mass Boy, versus Max Holloway. So yeah, I'm obviously going to root for. I shouldn't say obviously root for Kattar, because I do love Max Holloway, Matt. Love Max Holloway. Super fun guy to watch. Super talented guy. I think Kattar's a super tough guy. I will always support him. But and he has looked really good lately. I mean, especially against Ige and Stevens. And Kattar's put together a very impressive 6-2 UFC record, Matt. And it's definitely a top 10 fighter, debatably top 5 in the weight. I think he's right on that cusp. That being said, I think Max still has it. I think he still got it. I think it's still Max Holloway, Matt. I think he got robbed a little in his last fight against Alexander Volkanovski. First fight, Alexander looked great. No disputing that. In the last one, I think he got robbed a little bit, but it wasn't to the point. I know a lot of people talked about it. It wasn't like, oh, that was highway robbery. Like, it was close. It was very close.
Mm-hmm.
Like, maybe he didn't. I don't know. But it was a very good close fight. And Volkanovski is amazing. Max Holloway, that was like his only 2 losses in the past. Like, I mean, he lost to Poirier too, but like, I don't know. It's just crazy to me. People forget that Max Holloway's 29. So many people. This is one of the biggest fallacies I think in MMA that I see people talk about is like Max Holloway's washed. I'm like, have you seen him? Like, watch him fight. The guy isn't washed at all. It's just really good guys he's fighting.
Right.
Like, Volkanovski's a freak. This guy walked around at my size and cuts down to 145. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, it's unbelievable. Do you know that? He was like a 255-pound rugby player.
No.
And now he fights 145.
What?
Crazy.
How?
That's why he's such a Mack truck at the size. And he's an amazing fighter. He's a very technical, talented fighter. And so the fact that people think Max is washed when he lost a super close decision to him last time, I don't know. It's just stupid. I mean, Max still has the pop. He still moves amazing. He's still cardio off the gate. I just think this is a really people sleep on him. I think the only concern I would say is like Holloway at 8,900, even in a 5-rounder. It's not a lock if he wins to make optimal. You know what I mean? It really isn't. I think he should, but like more times than not. I'd say like 3/4 of the time, 2/3 of the time at that price, if he wins, he's making optimal. But he might not get a finish, and there's going to be some finishes on the slate, Matt. There's going to be some finishes. You know what I mean? So that's my one concern, but I think you can still take him. Cater, obviously, if he wins, he's going to make optimal because he's $7,300 in a 5-rounder.
Yeah.
Either he's going to knock him out or he's going to win in a 5-round decision. He's going to make optimal. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. I think this is stackable. I really do. I think this, which we haven't said in a while, Matt. Like, we really haven't said a 5-rounder is stackable in a while, just because the high finish chance and all this crap.
Yeah, but this price tag is insane.
It's the price tag. It's the fact that we just watched Calvin Kattar come off his first 5-rounder, had a lengthy decision against Ige. Yeah. Max Holloway is the king of 5-rounders. You know what I mean? He's really, he can take people into deep waters. His cardio is amazing. We just saw him versus Volkanovski. I don't think Kattar's going to put Max away. Let's put it that way. I feel pretty good about that. And Max could put Kattar away, but again, I think this is stackable.
54% owned on, is it Kattar or Qatar? Kattar, 54.2%, Kevin. That is the highest on the slate with a $7,300 price tag. I don't think I've ever seen that from an underdog in the main event. I don't think I've ever seen them being the highest owned. It makes sense.
What did I tell you? People think Max is washed.
Yeah. Well,
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I love Kattar. I think he's amazing. I think he can win this fight. I'm not disagreeing with you. It's just like, how, but not to the point where 54% for the underdog, whatever you said. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. It just shows you how easy it is to build with somebody with a near, I wouldn't say near even, person who has a 43% chance to win this thing. Max Holloway is 42.4% owned, which is still very, very high, third highest on the card. But usually from a main event, a favorite, Kevin, we see them always being the highest owned, and it's not even debatable. Just because it's a 5-rounder, you can get the most amount of points of that. Even if it goes a distance, it's still likely to make the optimal when they do win. $8,900 is relatively cheap too, so you can easily build him into your lineups. Yeah, stackable 100% for sure in cash. The ownerships, I'm thinking this is a GPP card. Honestly, the more I look at these ownerships, Kevin, this is insane. So, love this card altogether. Do you want to bring it all together here and go over some core options?
I mean, I love Kattar, but that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean, people forget that Max Holloway was the best featherweight for a long time. Like, it just blows my mind. Dude knocked out Jose Aldo twice. Yeah. Like, what do you want from me? Like, that's okay. Anyway, I can't believe I'm like defending the person fighting my fellow Massachusetts boy, but it's just like
Max Holloway fan this weekend, guys. You're looking at him right here, number 1.
Chill. I still want Kattar. Still my boy. But yeah, GPP plays. We got actually no, let's go core. Core, we got Holloway and Kattar to talk about. I think it does have stack potential in cash. Crazy ownership, Matt. 90% between them combined. That's ridiculous. Buckley, price puts him into cash. And just I think that's where he should live at 9,400, especially if you're gonna stack the main. Very interesting for Buckley. I still don't quite know if that's the right spot to put him, but that's where I'm going to throw him right now. GPP plays Felipe and Tafa, a heavyweight fight between two knockout artists. Really like that one. Phil Hawes, crazy finish ability. Love his price at 8,800. Think that's not too hard to reach optimal. Soriano and Dusko, we just talked about it, Matt. Crazy ownership. Really don't love the ownership on that. It's too much, but I actually, in the same breath, do like the fact that it's huge leverage either way. So you expose, say you have 100% exposure to them in your lineups. You make multiple lineups. Right off the rip, say you target 50% of that one, right off the rip, in half of your lineups, you're knocking out half the field.
Yep.
So 50% of your lineups, you're knocking out 50% of the field. So I like that. Big fan of that. Two very dangerous undefeated guys at great pricing. So, and it allows you to construct your lineup. I mean, as long as that fight ends in a finish, it should make optimal at that pricing, and it's going to allow you to, you're already going to be looking good in 50% of your lineups to make the optimal. That's great. You know what I mean? So think about that. And when you're constructing your lineups and when doing something like that, Condit and Brown, some washed up vets, but crazy finish power. It could be a make or break fight. I'm very surprised at the ownership that you're talking about for that, Matt. Lower than I thought. So that's definitely going to catapult that one a little higher on me. I get why, but again, make multiple lineups. Add Soriano and Dusko in that one. Add Condit and Brown. You know what I mean? Some combination of the two fights, and both should end in a finish, both those fights. So I like that. Punts, I'm going to talk about Imavov because I love Phil Hawes, one of my favorite GPP plays, probably my favorite GPP play. But Imavov is also my favorite GPP punt because Hawes can be finished, and Imavov is good. And then my other favorite punt is Li Jinglang. Super cheap, and I'm just so surprised at this line. And to be honest, this price point, I mean, I just can't believe. I mean, Santiago isn't a returning belt holder. You know what I mean? He's not a returning UFC champ. Why is this guy a minus 300 against a guy who's 9-4 in the UFC? Don't get it. Don't get it. So that's my take. Yeah, that'll wrap it up, man.
All right. Well, I don't have to say anything more. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, guys, have a great rest of your weekend, and let's cash.